Welcome to What's the Score, a series solely dedicated to the support of Central Florida's small business and entrepreneurs. Donated as a community service by AM 660 The Answer and Salem Communications. Now, here's Christopher Hart and Rich Jaeckle.
Welcome to What's the Score? Once again, we want to thank you so very much for being with us, folks. That's right, you are listening to the show that is designed to help you come up with that winning combination for your business. I am Christopher Hart of the American Adversaries Radio Show, and once again, I'm joined in the studio by Rich Jaeckle from SCORE. Hey, Rich.
Hello there, Christopher Hart. I have an idea for you that I'd like to discuss in a little bit here.
Idea. I think you've been hanging around Paul McNally, who is our other co-host here, Paul McNally of ABC Brokerages and also of SCORE. Paul, hey, how are you?
I'm doing good, enjoying this winter 85-degree weather.
Yeah, well, we're having some cold weather this weekend, and, the season is here. Let's just put it that way, and it's welcomed by a lot of us out there. And as I said, we welcome you to the show, folks, and remember, this is about SCORE and what SCORE has to offer. And, of course, SCORE is a free mentorship program to people who are either starting out in business who are already well-established in business. It doesn't matter. That's right. But unlike the saying that you get what you pay for, at SCORE, you get the greatest advice on how to progress in your business, how to start a business, how to set one up. And that's what they are all about. And the best part of all is they have a physical location in Orlando, one of the only 3 in the nation, and it is in the Entrepreneur Center at the Fashion Square Mall. And it's located between JCPenney and Sears. And you can just park in the parking garage there and look for the green vines on the building, and it'll lead you right into SCORE.
Growing vines.
There you go, just like a growing business. And also, you can call over there and make an appointment if you want to do that and talk to somebody at SCORE. The entrepreneur's phone number is 407-420-4844. That's 407-420-4844. And, of course, they have a website called scoreorlando.org, scoreorlando.org. Now, at scoreorlando.org, you're going to find out about what they do there at the Entrepreneur Center and a little bit about the overall reach of SCORE. But SCORE is a national organization. They have a national website called score.org. And they have a lot more there in the way of the actual documentation and things like that you might need to set up a business. But they hold seminars very regularly over here at the Entrepreneur Center. And although some of them have a small charge of like $30, and believe you me, folks, what you get out of it is worth a whole lot more than that. They also have some free seminars. And Paul, when's the next one coming up, please?
Well, we had one today, the November 1st, and we've got one coming up on Monday, a free one, November 3rd at 6 p.m.
Okay, that's November 3rd, 6 p.m. at the Entrepreneur Center. You don't have to make a reservation. It is free. Just come on over there, and that way you can find out, what SCORE has to offer for you. And so to that end, you said you had an idea there, Rich.
I do have an idea. You know how...
What's an idea?
You know how Paulie does his Paul speak over there?
Yeah.
I'm thinking that we write an entire new dictionary about the words like he uses, idea and that kind of stuff. But I'm wondering, do we need to get it copyrighted or trademarked or what do we do with this thing once we get it? So Paul has a tremendous guest today to answer all those questions for us.
Well, Paul, why don't you introduce him for us?
And we do, and it's a fellow volunteer at SCORE. And his name is Nate Friends, a retired attorney, and does a lot of counseling on intellectual property, on what you need to do to try to protect that. So welcome to the show, Nate.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Nate, let me ask you this. You are a volunteer at SCORE. How long have you been doing that?
Just under a year. I started last February.
What got you involved with SCORE, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, once I became aware of what SCORE was and what it was doing, it just seemed like a very good avenue for me to come back and give something back. I've been in business now for 40 years, and just feel like I have a lot that I could offer the upcoming people to keep them from making some of the same mistakes that most of us have made in our lives.
You were a practicing attorney for 40 years now. Most practicing attorneys are businessmen. They have their own practice. And so you had some business world experience as well as legal experience, I take it.
Oh, yes. I spent 30 years with AT&T Corporation. And various segments of the business and on various locations. In fact, I was what you might say a corporate gypsy. I moved from about 3 or 4 states, 5 or 6 cities, and Worked with them in all areas of corporate law for about 25 of those years. 5 of those years were spent as a lobbyist in Washington.
A lot of those years of AT&T, you went through some changes because that company changed many, many times over that 25 years.
Now, let me tell you, when I started with AT&T, it was over 1 million employees covering the entire United States and part of international. And as you know, there was a breakup of AT&T back in '83, and that was my one of my jobs. I was an attorney for the antitrust section of AT&T that resulted in the breakup of AT&T. And, of course, I was on the losing side, if you want to see it that way.
Well, my mom was one of those 1 million employees. She was, when she first started at the phone company, when she was a young woman, she was literally pulling and pushing the what you would call a Sarah, get me George down at the general store. And later on, though, she was the information operator before that became all automated. And she would literally look up the phone numbers in the phone book. And then until it became computerized, and then they would look it up on the computer, and you still had
getting the phone jack.
Yeah, but
it was the black rotary phone back in those days.
That's right. Well, how did you?
I wouldn't remember, but Paul does.
Nate, how did you actually find out about SCORE? I mean, was there another business executive that you talked to, or how did you even stumble across SCORE?
Well, I'd heard about it in previous years. I lived in Great Falls, Virginia, which is right next to Herndon, Virginia, which is the headquarters of SCORE. So I knew about it, but knew very little about it. Just knew it was there, and knew it was there to provide free service for people who wanted to start businesses and wanted to grow their business. And after I got here and decided to retire a second time, I looked into it and liked what I saw. I like what they do.
Are you the only legal counselor over at SCORE right now?
To my knowledge. Now, bear in mind now, I'm not a legal counselor. I'm a business counselor for SCORE.
Okay.
With a legal background.
All right, and there is a difference.
There is a difference.
Huge difference.
Yeah, one of the things with SCORE is we don't give legal advice and we don't give accounting advice. We can help people with finding the right people and going in the right direction, but we don't give legal or accounting advice.
In other words, SCORE doesn't say, here's what you need to do, A, B, and C. What they say is, you need to work on this, and here's where you need to go to get your,
here's what you need to be thinking about.
Exactly.
To make that decision.
Right. And so obviously that's where a man with this kind of experience, would be very helpful. And a lot of people, when they start a business, the legal things are one of the last things that they think about. And so is it oftentimes that people, come to you after they have a problem, or are people coming to you beforehand seeking out your counsel?
Well, in normal circumstances, they come after they have a problem. At SCORE, they tend to come before, because there they've recognized from the outset that they have an idea or a concept. They don't have a business, and they want to start a business. And they come to us seeking that counsel and that advice as to how to get there. And providing that counsel, of course, legal issues come up, such as what type of business entity do you want to have? Sole proprietorship? You want a corporation? You want an LLC? These are questions that not only do you not have answers to, they didn't have the question. So when they come away from SCORE, very often they'll leave with a number of questions they didn't have before.
And that's one of the most important things about SCORE is it's making you aware of things that you didn't even think of that may not have occurred to you that will be out there. And oftentimes these are sort of like landmines waiting for you to step on them and destroy your business.
Right.
One of the things I noticed with Nate on a couple of counseling sessions that I sat in on is that he can help people prepare themselves for a meeting with an attorney they may be hiring to ask the right questions and streamline that meeting. So instead of maybe 3 or 4 hours that they're paying an attorney, it might cut it down to 1 or 2 hours. And we all know that it's all about the time on the end result bill. And they can save some money there by him directing them to go about things the right way.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, very often, just pointing them in the direction of the type of attorney they need. People think that we're painting with a broad brush, but attorneys are not. They have specialties also. So just understanding that with your issue, you need to seek someone with this type of expertise. And on occasion, we will try to help them to find that person.
So, once again, they don't give you legal advice at SCORE, but they direct you where you can find that legal advice, and even more importantly, tell you what you need to be asking and what you need to be looking for. So they help you sort of narrow it down. And once again, folks, this is free and available at SCORE, and Nate will be the person you will be working with here in Central Florida, should you choose to seek this sort of counsel at SCORE. And of course, we highly suggest that you do. Every business, has legal challenges, if you will, starting up and possibly creeping up during the course of the business. Some have more than others. If you have a lot of intellectual property or something like that, you've got a lot of legal issues you need to be aware of and on top of. If you're a landscaper, you still have legal issues and things that you need to be aware of. None of us are immune, so to speak. Rich.
Yeah, and a lot of the legal issues, like recording your business with the state and registering your business with the state, are covered in our seminars. So some of the basic legal knowledge is covered. We don't tell you this is what you need to do. We tell you, here's what this means, here's what this means, and you make the decision of what's best for you.
We've also got, and we've got one coming up this Wednesday on the 5th, a seminar on legal basics, which is a $30 seminar. And you can go to scoreorlando.org and sign up for that. And that'll give you the basics of some of the legal issues you could run into. And a very, very good seminar that could save you a lot of money when it comes to your attorney costs.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. I got a question, I think a week or so ago. At Score Orlando, you can go there, yes, and find the menu of all the seminars that are offered here in Orlando with the prices, I believe, as well.
Prices are there, and you sign up for the seminars right on the site and online and pay with a credit card.
Okay, another question I got is, for these seminars that cost $30, can they walk in like they can at the free seminar and pay at the door, so to speak? We discourage it, but we won't turn them away. Okay. And they need to bring cash in that case because we're not equipped to take credit cards at the door. But we will take them on. But there's materials that we need to prepare, and that's why it helps us if you sign up ahead of time at scoreorlando.org. Okay, so they can have all the goodies ready for you, folks. And we got a lot of goodies to go on today's show, but we have to take our first break now. But I do want to remind you, at scoreorlando.org is where you can find those seminars, and you can get, as I said, the menu and find out, this one I want to go to, this one I want to go to, and you can order them yourself in the order that you want. And you can also give them a call over there. If you want to go in over there, you can walk in. So it's the Entrepreneur Center at the Fashion Square. SCORE is located there. The phone number 407-420-4844. Please don't go away. We're coming right back with more of What's the Score? Okay, welcome back to What's the Score, folks. Once again, we want to thank you for being with us on this autumn weekend, and we really appreciate you being with us for our 19th edition now. I can't believe that, guys. 19 shows already. And once again, folks, these shows are archived at the website, scoreorlando.org. So you can go back and you can review. If there was one particular guest that you particularly like, you can hear that show again and again and again at scoreorlando.org. Before we get back to today's show, I just want to remind you folks that one reason why SCORE uses this radio show is because it is such a great format to reach a wide variety of audience listeners, including a lot of people who are in business for themselves. I mean, they listen to radio all day long, many of them. And this is being brought to you as a compliment of Salem Communications here in Orlando, Florida. And if you would like to find out more about how you can be on radio, and it's extremely affordable, folks, give Bill Files a call. He'll set you up an appointment to take a tour around the station. You can talk about radio advertising or having a show of your own, just like this one right here. And Bill's phone number is 407-618-1760. That's 407-618-1760. Bill Files, he's the station manager here, and he'd love to hear from you. Okay, and we'd love to hear from you too, folks. We love the comments that we get. We get some questions, and if you have a suggestion for a guest or a particular type of business guest that you would like to hear, send those remarks to score@nationalec.org. That's score@nationalec.org. Okay, once again, today's guest is Nate Friends, a retired attorney who spent many years working for AT&T Corporation, including during the breakup, and also was a lobbyist in Washington, D.C. Now, I can't go any further in the show without asking you, were you a telecommunications lobbyist for the communications industry?
I was a telecommunications lobbyist for AT&T.
For AT&T, okay.
They were the communication industry back then.
It's funny you say that because at that time they had the telecommunications industry divided between dominant and non-dominant carriers. The non-dominant carriers would be the Verizons now and the local operating companies. They had their own trade association.
Huh.
AT&T was the only dominant carrier. So we were our own trade association. There was no one else to bring in.
Pretty exclusive club there.
Well, they broke them up, and then they came back bigger than they were before. So, I mean, that's and now they're buying out Dish Network, so that's going to even put them in a more of a control situation if that happens.
Lobbyists oftentimes get a bad name, bad reputation, and I'm sure, anytime, you have power and money involved, there are the characters that do the scurrilous things. But for the most part, our government relies on lobbying, doesn't it?
Absolutely. The more input you have, the more diversity in terms of thought, the better decisions that are made. And the way to get those diversity of thought is through having people who have different viewpoints. The more viewpoints you have, then the people who are making the decisions can make better decisions.
And when you think of it, it makes perfect sense because most legislators that find themselves in Washington or state capitals are business people or attorneys, and although they may have a lot of knowledge, it is nonetheless limited. They can't know everything about everything, so you have to rely on input from industry and from interest groups, for the input that you need to make decisions.
Absolutely.
So it's a crucial part of our democracy, and we should appreciate that fact. Nate is a volunteer at SCORE, folks. If you would like to talk to Nate, if you have some, doubts in your mind about your legal status, he can help you guide you in the right direction to find the answers that you need. And once again, you can make an appointment with Nate by giving him a call over there at 407-420-4844. And just as a general idea, Nate, say I come into you and I sit down and I say, I've got this idea here and I think I can sell 1 million of these things and make some money. What are some of the first things you're going to ask me?
Well, first of all, what you just said is exactly how it happens. A person comes in with an idea or a concept or a product and they don't have a business. They want to know how to make it into a business. And we start from ground zero. One of the first things I tell them to do is to sign up for the first SCORE course. That's the overview of what SCORE can do for you. And from there, I try to get them to walk through the entire litany of, it's only 5, I believe, or 6 courses at SCORE, so they can get a better understanding of where they are and what their needs are. I want them to be semi-educated before we get into specifics.
That's been our motto here, is do your homework. Before you come in, do your homework.
And it's important that you have that sort of fundamental knowledge so you know what, as Paul said a while ago, what are the right questions to ask, and you don't get mired down in a lot of stuff that may not even pertain to you or is just confusing. Paul.
Correct, and it also brings out when you're going through the seminars, people will take notes and they're going to realize for their particular business some different things that pertain to them. I mean, there's a lot of things that don't, but it's taking out the things that are going to pertain to their type of business, whether it be a service business, a manufacturing, a product, or computer-based, whatever. And that's where the seminars can really help. And we've tried to gear those seminars into good, solid information that we're delivering, not a lot of fluff. So it's almost like taking a year's course at college condensed into 3 hours.
And you're getting it from people who know what they're talking about because they've been through it. Nate, what would be one of the things that you might tell someone not to do when they first come to you?
Well, not to be too quick on the trigger, not to just go out there from the outset and start a business. Jump right into it and see what happens. Some people do that. In fact, they come to us after they've done that, and we have to go back and try to unlearn for them, help them to unlearn what they've already done. But just to go back for a minute, what you just mentioned reminds me of something historical with my own industry, my own company, AT&T. You go back, Alexander Graham Bell, he invents the telephone. Did he know how to run a business?
Not likely.
No, he did
You didn't
not.
hear anything else about Alexander Graham Bell.
Nobody sure knew how to file patents.
He knew how to file
trademarks
patents. He knew how to come up with a good device, but how to market that device, how to sell that device, how to come up with the policies that you want in place to make that device useful and a moneymaker. That was someone else. He took it as far as he could. He didn't have a score.
I see. And I take it he did not die a wealthy man? Is that what you're leading up to here?
I'm sure
He was well-to-do.
he was well-to-do.
Probably could have been a whole lot better off, and the industry maybe moved a little quicker had he had a little bit more, marketing savvy or teamed up with someone like that. And that's not uncommon, is it?
Not at all.
Did you go to school with him, Rich?
Mr. Bell, no, he was one of my teachers back in those days. He could, he had more patents at that time than anybody else, right?
His lane was inventing. His lane was not
Or he
business.
took an idea. And then he expanded and developed it, right.
But in terms of developing it to a worldwide business that it is, that was taken over by someone else.
Right.
And that's a good point, because you surround yourself with good people to try to grow a business, and that's what you can do at SCORE, is surround yourself with those resources that you need to help grow your business and get it started, and we can direct them in the right way to partner, not to recommend partners, but to help them get the right people to get their business off the ground.
Right.
And just even from the standpoint of learning, even in a university setting, where else can you go and you find people who are teaching you who have years of experience in the area?
Right.
They're not theoretical. They've been there. They've done that. They've made the mistakes.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. Paul more than most.
But
I won't touch that.
But I'm glad you brought up the point about Alexander Graham Bell, though, because it just goes to show that in business, some things never change. There are certain rules and realities of business that don't change, which is why it is valuable to get that advice from someone who's been in business a long time. There's probably some young people out there thinking, well, this is a whole new business world. What do they call it? They often call the new situation the new normal and things like that. But the new normal is the same old normal. I mean, some business things just never change. And you can't get away from, the marketing and the sales and that sort of thing. All of that has to be a part of your organization.
The
basics are the basics.
Yeah, the
Exactly.
fact remains, if you're a great inventor, doesn't necessarily mean you're a good businessman. So you've got to either, if you can't do it, get somebody else who can advise you on how to do it.
Yeah.
How to market your product.
Yeah, I watch Shark Tank sometimes, and on CNBC they run reruns of Shark Tank, and this particular episode, I understand, was probably a couple or 3 years old, but there was a fellow in there, and I can't remember what his product was, but they all loved it. But he was such a lousy business person, none of them wanted to do anything to do with the guy. I mean, Mark Cuban was the last to hold out, and finally he couldn't get a direct answer out of the guy. He said, forget it. We can make a lot of money with that, but you're just too big of a pain. And so you have to understand, folks, you can't be too,
Arrogant
and too focused in on just one part of, thinking that if you've come up with this device that, that's the end all.
Well, an important thing, too, is you need to know your weaknesses so that you can get somebody in the organization that can make up for that, because nobody is strong in every point.
Right.
So if you know that sales and marketing is not your expertise, it's inventing, then you need to hire somebody to do that part of it to be successful. And that's where we can try to help you uncover the areas that you're not the strongest in.
Yeah, I love your analogy of Bell, because here he had a brilliant patented invention, but yet it sat on the shelf till somebody came in and said, here's what we're going to do with this.
Right.
They had a function for it. They had a practical purpose for it. And he could not fathom that much of that. It would have just sat on the shelf.
And believe me, folks, as I say, some things never change. That's kind of what it was with the PC. With the personal computer. I believe it was Xerox or someone like that who actually originally invented the PC, but it took Steve Jobs and Bill Gates to have the vision to see this is how it can be used in business, and therefore everybody's going to want one, need one, have to have one.
They invented the machine, but didn't have the applications to make it beneficial.
Right.
Yeah, and the mouse was given to Bill Gates from GE, given to him as a device to play with. Yeah. They didn't even know what it could do, so he figured out the interface and figured out, wait a minute, I can make this thing communicate with this PC, and there it went.
Yep.
So it wasn't even his, but he patented it.
That's right. Okay, folks, we've already burned through the first half of the show, but we certainly hope you will stick around with us for the second half of the show. We're going to get into some more specific legal things with Nate Friends, who is a SCORE counselor. And once again, folks, you can make an appointment with Nate, Rich, Paul, or anybody over at SCORE by simply calling them at 407-420-4844. That's the Entrepreneur Center, where SCORE is located, 407-420-4844. And once again, the Entrepreneur Center is in the Fashion Square Mall in Orlando, between Penny's and Sears. Okay, so please don't go away, because we will be right back with more from What's the Score? Okay, welcome back to What's the Score, folks. That's right, you are listening to the show that's here to help you come up with that winning combination for your business. And the best part is you can go down to the Entrepreneur Center and meet with them yourself. There's a free seminar coming up Paul's going to tell you about here in just a second. That will be Paul McNally of SCORE. Rich Jaeckle of SCORE is here. I am Christopher Hart of the American Adversaries Radio Show. And our guest today is Nate Friends. He's a retired attorney, corporate attorney, worked many years with the AT&T Corporation, including during the breakup. And he is now a counselor at SCORE. And once again, Paul, when is that next seminar coming up, the free one?
Our next free seminar is this Monday night, November 3rd at 6 p.m., and it is at the Entrepreneur Center. You can just show up for that course. I'd like to mention two others that we've got coming up. We've got on Wednesday, sort of as a follow-up to this show, not intentional, but it is on legal basics. So you can get the basics of some of the legal issues and topics you might run across on starting a business, contracting, partnerships, shareholder agreements, employee issues, and so on and so forth. And then we've got another series of seminars coming up. Somebody had asked me yesterday if we do anything on social media, which is a big hot topic now, and we do a 3-part workshop series on social media. And we start the series this Tuesday, the November 4th, at 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. And you can go to scoreorlando.org and sign up for that, and it'll give the different dates. It's the 4th, the 13th, and the 18th of November. And it's 3 2-hour sessions, all in the morning during the week.
Okay, and as you say, social media is a big part of pretty much every business today. It doesn't matter whether you're in carpentry business like me, or radio business like me, or the restaurant business, or if you have a retail store, of course, you already know. So SCORE is the place to get that information. And during the break, we were talking, and Nate mentioned that you said during the 70s, you guys at AT&T all had video phones. You could talk and see each other at the same time?
Oh, yes. It was there. The executives at AT&T, and at that time I was with the Illinois Bill. We had picture phones. But again, there was no market for it at that time, because by its very nature, you have to have it at both ends. How are you going to sell that?
Yeah, at that time, the other technology, I guess, smartphones and those things, of course, not being around, but and then
cell phones in general weren't around then.
Right? Yeah.
Well, keep in mind, even going back before that, the telephone itself, it only became useful and valuable when everyone had it.
True.
The more people had it, the more valuable it became.
The picture phones, were they too expensive?
Too expensive
for the
at the
average household?
Too expensive at the time, and of course, people were not ready for it. Yeah. Some people were saying, I don't want to answer the phone in my house coat.
Right, yeah, that would have been my
I don't
phone.
want to make a mistake and come out of the shower and answer my phone.
Right.
And actually, back in those days, people didn't own phones. They were actually issued by the telephone company and stayed their ownership. It didn't. I think it was well into the 70s, late 70s, early 80s before you actually started buying phones.
That's right. Fascinating stuff. Once again, Nate is a retired attorney, so he is the counselor at SCORE that can help you on legal issues. And well, let's just kind of start from the beginning. You mentioned entities earlier. Why is it important to have a business entity like a LLC, is it okay anymore just to have simply a sole proprietorship without any sort of legal corporate umbrella over you?
Well, there's nothing wrong with having a sole proprietorship. The issue would become liability. Then you have personal liability if you're a sole proprietor. On the other hand, if you are a corporation, then you got to start thinking about taxes, things like double taxation. If you're an LLC, you get the kind of the benefits of both. But each one of them has its drawbacks. Each one of them has its benefits. And you need to understand, for your particular situation, what's best for you.
And that's what's taught in the seminar, the basics right there, is what's the difference and how can I use it to my advantage?
And there's a lot of times it's what's it going to do for you now for protection and advantage, and sometimes it's part of the exit strategy on what your intentions are with the business down the road, because they all have different repercussions at the end.
When it comes to business, there really are no easy answers. Intelligent choices. And that's what we try to help them do, make an intelligent choice. But the choice is theirs.
Right.
And then we'll point them in the direction of people who can help them become even more intelligent in making those choices.
Yeah, I'm glad that's an excellent way to state it, that there are no easy answers in business. I mean, very seldom are they when it comes to the operation and the day-to-day ins and outs of the business. So it is important, once again, to have people that can help you, know what the best option for you is, so to speak. And as far as these entities go, as Rich said, not only can you find out about them at the seminar, but you can also get the documents or download the documents, if you will, to fill out at score.org, the national website.
Right. Well, no, you don't even need to go there.
Oh.
Actually, no offense here, Nate, but a lawyer would probably charge you $450 to file an S-Corp form with the state, okay? You can do it yourself by going to sunbiz.org
right,
and filing for the S-Corp yourself, and it'll cost you $79.
Well,
that's it.
That thought occurs to me, though, Nate. Is that wise for someone to do it on their own? I mean, at what point or what type of business, if you will, would that maybe not be the wise thing to do?
Well, it's two things here. First of all, the mechanical part of filing is just go to Sunbiz. The decision as to whether or not you want to go with an S-Corp, a C-Corp, an LLC, or whatever entity, that's where the lawyer comes in to help you make that intelligent choice.
But that's where also the seminar comes in.
And the seminar helps you with that.
Right.
Exactly. When you go through, the seminar will help you understand all your choices. When you want to go a next step, the next step being, okay, I've got this situation, then you need a lawyer to help you with your particulars. You'll get the generic basics from the courses. But when you want to say, okay, now, that's all well and good, but I'm not sure whether it's an LLC or a C or an S, and you want to go into more depth, and the more depth is individualized, then you need counsel for yourself.
Right. And if you go the route of the LLC, the tax implications are far less than if you go with an S or C corporation, because then you have to actually file taxes for that S or C corporation.
Well, that's just what we're talking about. There's no easy answer.
All right.
You say for some it may be advantageous.
Right.
For others, no, that won't work for you.
Right.
There's other limitations associated with each one.
Right.
And independent, you may not have very much by way of corporate assets, and so you're paying the same way, same thing. Or let's just say this, the only employee of the corporation is you, and the corporation makes no money. Why? Because the only thing they pay out is your salary.
Right.
Did the corporation help you there? Probably not.
I see.
But again, you need to understand not only the law, but the specific facts of the individual organization.
Because everybody's situation is going to be different.
Both
right.
The LLC and the S-Corp will allow you to be taxed two different ways, either as a company or a corporation or as an individual.
Right.
And it's your choice, but usually you would go to an accountant or a lawyer to make that decision.
All right. Well, as you can see, without intending to do so, I just proved what Nate is talking about, is that there are no, cut easy answers, cookie cutter type things for, that everybody can just sort of rely on, because Rich is absolutely right. And so you need to basically customize it for you. You need to find out what you need, and the way to do that is to go to the seminars at SCORE and then meet with Nate Friends at SCORE. And so once again, folks, the seminars cost you $30. It'll be the best $30 you ever spend for that type of a seminar. And then, of course, meeting with Nate is free.
If that saves you 15 minutes with an attorney, you made out.
Absolutely
right.
Yeah, and,
I've got the back to my original question, Nate. You and I were talking on the phone earlier this week about intellectual property, and what does that mean exactly, and what does it encompass? And I've got an invention. We talked about Bell and his patents. What's the difference between a patent, a copyright, a trademark? It's so confusing out there these days. How do I know what I need to get?
Well, the broad heading is intellectual property, and that's the property that's not tangible necessarily, although some of it is. People know how to protect their tangible property, their real property, meaning their land, their homes, their business structure, the brick and mortar. But you've also got intellectual property, and that covers all the different things that go into your pulling your business together. For instance, you mentioned, Chris, landscaper. Well, the name, whatever name he's using. If he's XYZ landscaper, he doesn't want someone else, his competitor, saying, I'm XYZ landscaper.
Sure.
So how does he prevent that? You need to have intellectual property protection. That goes to things like he would trademark his name. That way he can exclude someone else from using it. Copyright is just where you're talking literary works. We talked earlier about a slogan. All of you have heard different slogans used by comedians. Get her done, for one.
Yeah.
Well, he wanted to get a copyright on that. Why? Because then if you see it on some T-shirt someplace else that he's not getting royalties from, then he can exclude you. He can cause you to cease and desist from using it.
Was he able to?
His right.
Was he able to?
He's got it.
Is that right?
He's got it.
So we could do it for what's the score, right?
Well,
what could we do here? Is it copyright?
Again, no easy answers. Again,
I
got to go see a lawyer.
You certainly can attempt to, but when you come to things like trademarks and all, it's really a consumer protection issue.
Yeah.
It's trying to keep the public from being misled or confused in terms of what they're buying. Mm-hmm. I would love to start a soft drink manufacturing company now and use Coca-Cola on it.
Oh,
I wonder how long that would last.
Well, until Coke could find me out.
They'd lay right up there.
But you've got copyrights, that's literary works. You've got trademarks, trade names for services, trademarks for products, and of course you've got patents. Now, a patent is a tough process. There are so many patents on the shelf of the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, you wouldn't believe it. Some of which have never been used, may never be used. Why? Because some big companies warehouse them in the event they become useful later on. That relates back to what we discussed earlier about the picture phone.
Absolutely. All right, looks like we're coming up on the break, and thanks for letting me know there, Paul. I was so intrigued in what Nate was talking about. So when we come back, we'll be talking more with Nate Friends. And, folks, once again, What's the Score is the name of the show. ScoreOrlando.org is the name of the website. 407-420-4844 is the phone number at the Entrepreneur Center. So please take advantage of this. If you are of the mind to start a business and your process of the starting a business or already have one, Score is for you. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back to What's the Score, folks, and I'm just going to cut through all the stuff so we can get right back to Nate here. Nate Friends is a counselor at SCORE. He can help you out with, not legal advice, but, suggesting how you can get the answers that you need. And, Rich, you had a question for Nate.
I do. Nate, remember back in the 50s when they had all these rumors that the oil companies bought out the patent on a carburetor or some other device that was capable of getting upwards of 80 miles per gallon. Is there any truth to that?
Well, I don't know about that. I'm not sure, but it wouldn't be unusual.
Can they do that?
Of course, yes, they can. They can buy patents. I mean, if you came up with a patent right now for an automobile that could run on,
beer.
100 miles of beer, whatever, then you get a patent for it.
You'd drink it first.
It'd be the perfect fuel for Rich. You just stop alongside the roads.
He runs on it.
Fill up, yeah. I'm sorry, Nate.
No, but that means that you own that property. A patent is property. You own that property, and you have the rights to it. The ownership rights go for 20 years. If a big company wanted to buy it, and that's not unusual, they could come in and buy it from you. provided they wanted to give you the amount that you wanted. They couldn't take it from you, but if you wanted to sell it, absolutely. And that happens all the time. Big companies will buy patents. They don't know what to do with them at the time. Or maybe they don't want to do anything with them.
Right.
Because they don't want to see a car run off a beer. So they put it on the shelf.
So what that means it's only good for 20 years, though?
A patent is. Now, there are ways that they work where they can get it extended.
Right.
But then you're getting into some real technical areas.
But you were getting ready to say something else.
But the thing is, they get it, they put it on their shelf, they keep it there. You can't use it then. They can warehouse it. And by the way, that's not just for patents. That's also for trademarks. They've got rules to try to prevent that. I'll give you another example, and I'm using these examples only because from my background. Way back when, people would look at the telephone numbers, and very smart people look at it and say, hey, let's make that 1-800-CAR-RENT.
Okay, right, sure.
Then I'll sit on it. And I'll call all of the rental car companies and say, you want to buy it? Or whatever your business is. I come up with an acronym that I can use with numbers. And then I sit on it. They call that cyber squatting. Now they're doing it with domain names.
Right.
Yep. Right. Yeah, they've been.
You want to buy? You want to buy score.com? That type of thing. There are rules and regulations in place that are designed to prevent that. But people are doing it. And that relates back to what you said. I don't want you to compete with me. I don't want to go into that business. But I want to protect my own business. And therefore, I will buy your patent, put it on the shelf, throw it away, whatever I want to do with it.
Okay, now what about if I run across somebody who really wants to do this 90-mile-per-gallon carburetor, and so I say, I'll lease you the patent and take royalties from the sales. Can you do that?
Absolutely. You're talking about licensing.
Licensing, okay.
Licensing, think about it just like you own property and you want to rent it. You don't want to sell it, you want to keep it. So instead of calling a lease or rent, it's a license. It's the same thing.
A license to use it that you pay for.
Use it, that you get put restrictions on. You can use it for 2 years, 10 years, or in perpetuity, if you like. You still own it.
A prime example of that is software.
Absolutely.
Because they've got that copyrighted, and it's a license agreement when you buy Microsoft Office. Right. You get a license agreement good for one machine or whatever it is that they're licensing it for.
All right. And Paul brought up a point, and Nate was commenting during the break, and don't think that, intellectual property doesn't apply to you. As you said, Nate, people come to you and they say, well, I don't have any intellectual property. Do they not?
They do that all the time. And every business has a name. That name is your intellectual property. You don't want someone else using your name to provide the same goods or service that you're providing. Otherwise, they get the benefit of the goodwill that you built up.
Well, let me ask you this, and this is a point that Rich and Paul were talking about, is filing a fictitious name or even filing a corporation with that name, does that protect your intellectual property, either one of those or both?
It's a whole different issue, completely different issue. Fictitious name, meaning you're doing business in some place. You don't want to disclose where you are. No, that has nothing to do with that.
So that doesn't protect you in any way with your name and intellectual property?
It just means your name is not out there.
Right, okay.
But using a fictitious name means that you really don't want to build up the brand of your actual name.
Whoa, what does that mean?
Well, if I'm operating under a different name, then how am I building the brand that I own?
Yeah, maybe XYZ Corporation doing business as Score.
Exactly. You're not trying to build up XYZ in terms of goodwill.
So the fictitious name becomes your brand.
Exactly.
Right. But how about if let's say I go down and I incorporate, does that protect my intellectual property, having my name on a corporation registered with the state of Florida, say?
No, it has nothing to do with it.
Okay.
It means that another corporation can't come in and take that same name necessarily. A corporation will let you know that. But in terms of let me just say this. If you go out and do business under any name and you're the first person to do business under that name, then you have certain rights in most states, what they call common law rights.
Right.
Okay.
But you have to be able to prove that.
You have to be able to prove it, which is almost impossible sometimes.
Yeah. And
then if you want to make sure that you have good federal rights, that's when you go to the Patent and Trademark Office.
Okay.
And get a trademark on it.
We're talking the difference between federal and state here. Right.
Well, federal gives you for every state.
Right, I know.
Okay.
And Florida would just give you
Florida.
Protection for Florida. Exactly. Okay.
All right. When I trademarked the name to our radio show, The American Adversaries, and went through the process with the Patent and Trade Office. And after I got final approval for, I don't know, about a year, I would get these bills from some foreign bank or country wanting to charge me like $1,000 to have that trademark good over there. Of course, I didn't do it, but was that a mistake not to do it, or were they trying to scam me?
No, it's not a scam necessarily. What they do is they find out who has registered a trademark in the United States.
Right.
Now, if you want that same protection in another country, you have to register in that country. You don't have it for the world. You have it for the United States. So if you want to extend your tower where it's going to now include Canada, Mexico, you want to do it in Canada and Mexico. And you need to go before their trademark board to get it done.
Now, can an attorney here do that?
No, that attorney will probably find an attorney locally to do it for you
in
whatever
Canada,
country,
or whatever country.
And that's why they come to you directly. You know, we're in this internet age now. Mm-hmm. In the old days, you'd have somebody at the office itself looking through who's filed what.
Right.
Now you can just go online and they'll show you who has filed what trademark where, and whether or not it's been filed in other countries. And it's those lawyers from the other countries that are contacting you now saying, hey, do you want Mexico?
Right.
Patent protection?
They're just trying to get a little business for themselves.
That's all it is. That's all it is.
That's co-marketing.
You mentioned to me when we spoke about a very cheap, shall I say, way of filing one of these things, the trademark, or not the patent, but the copyright or trademark.
Referring to patents. A few years ago, the law was amended where you can now file for a provisional patent. It gives you no real protection. You file as if you were going to file your patent, whatever it encompasses, the drawing or whatever you have to describe it. And for 1 year, that provisional patent is in place, and it gives you an opportunity to go out and see if your goods or service or whatever you're doing
is marketable.
It's marketable. If anybody wants to buy it.
Oh.
And if it does, if it's selling, then that should tell you, well, I'm willing now to take the next step. The next step would be to get a patent lawyer and file
a formal patent.
Mm-hmm. If when you file that formal patent, if it goes through, you get a patent on it, your protection relates back to the day you filed the provisional.
I see.
Neat.
So the provisional gives you all of the same protection?
If the formal patent is accepted, then it relates back. And the difference is provisional patent costs you about $100.
That's it.
An actual patent, with all the searches and all, can go from $15,000 up.
So it allows you a year to market test it.
But keep in mind,
market test your idea.
Exactly. But keep in mind, they don't do the searches for you at that time, which means that at the end of the year, it could turn out that, well, someone else has a patent on that.
Right.
Okay. But that same thing would happen if you filed a formal patent and went through the whole procedure.
You'd be $15,000 later.
And you still wouldn't have a patent. And you still wouldn't have a patent.
So for $100, you said it's it's a pretty safe bet, more or less.
It gives you an opportunity to see if this is something I really want to proceed with.
Right.
You know, people have great ideas that are just not marketable. It's back to what we discussed earlier. It's a great idea. It does what you say it'll do, but nobody wants it. You can't sell it.
Or the market just isn't ready for it.
But you get a patent.
Yeah.
They'll send you back a document with all of the blue ribbons on it and stamps and seals and everything else and say you've got a patent. And you can brag about it to your friends and cocktail parties and all that stuff, but you can't sell it because nobody wants it.
Right.
So the other will give somebody a chance to try to create demand or see if there's demand for their product.
All right.
Exactly.
Real quickly, we're almost out of time. In terms of getting a copyright or trademark, that's probably a much easier process, even given that there are no easy answers.
Well, same thing. There's a search to be made in terms of trademark. Mm-hmm. Just because the patent office accepts it does not mean that you have all the rights to it, because someone else could have done it first but didn't file. And that person has rights for certain territories.
Right.
So there are a number of people that just go out and use the name. If they're the first to use it, they have rights to it.
I see.
But you have greater rights from a federal standpoint if you have a copyright or a trademark on it.
So, folks, I think you've gotten the idea by now. With any business, there are a lot of legal ins and outs that you need to be aware of. And going to SCORE and seeking the counsel of Nate Friends will certainly help guide you in the right direction. And don't forget the seminars there as well. And once again, when's that free seminar coming up, Paul? And who's next week's guest, please, sir?
Monday night, the seminar is 6 p.m. at the National Entrepreneur Center. And next week, we've got Joe Saberna, who is the chef and owner of Cavallari Gourmet Market, which is a market that's been in Oviedo for years, and they've just expanded, opening their second place in Lake Erie. And we're going to talk about small business and expansion of small businesses.
All right. Okay, so once again, folks, that's going to wrap it up for today. Nate Friends, thank you very much for being on the show. It was a fascinating discussion. Fascinating.
Really
absolutely.
Amazing.
Thank you for having me.
Great, thank you.
I'm sure our audience got a lot out of it and put a lot of people to thinking.
We got a lot out of it.
Absolutely. So once again, folks, SCORE is the place for you. No matter what business that you're in or thinking about getting in, SCORE is the place for you. So please take advantage of it. Go to scoreorlando.org. Take advantage of those seminars and take advantage of What's the Score once again next week.